This podcast is a member of the Red 5 Network. For more Red 5 Network podcasts and content creators, visit bio.link/red5.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
We're such nerds. What's happening, Nick?
Bro?
Can you hear me? Uh-oh. What's happening? Can you hear me? Let's see here. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? I guess he can't. Well, my mic is on. I see things moving. How about now? Can you hear me? I guess he can't. Let's see here. How about now? Can you hear me now? Are you? Let's give Nick a little minute here to figure things out. Let's see here. I'm watching myself on YouTube and I'm moving. Having a little technical difficulty here on the Scare of Scuttlebutt podcast. Interesting. Oh, look, he's holding up his Jaws thing. Well, we were going to talk about Jurassic World Rebirth. And I'm going to send him a message. Why don't you leave and then come back? Just sent Nick a message. If you can't tell, Nick.
Be right back.
NickFlix Podcast is going to come out. He's going to leave and he's going to come back. A little technical difficulty. Spencer, thank you very much for joining us. The Dingus Den. And it worked fine before we went live. And all of a sudden, when we went live,
No.
there you go. That everything good?
I think so. We should be good, I think.
Wow, we were fine before we went live, and then all of a sudden we went live, and then I did a silly thing, you did a silly thing, and then all of a sudden we realized nobody saw it. How are you, sir?
Good, man. How you doing, brother?
Pretty good. And I'm excited to have you on Scarif Live tonight. We're going to talk about Jurassic World Rebirth. We'll talk about it, but where did you go see it?
I went to it's called Marcus Theater is the chain I go to that's in Elgin by my house.
Yeah.
And they had it in, it's kind of like their version of almost like IMAX, but it's one of the like nice like surround soundy like, so it looked great. Like we kind of talked about, and we'll get into the pros and cons, but
Sure.
yeah, it was actually pretty decent amount of people for like a one.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. That's good. And I think, I have always been a proponent of watching movies like this on the big screen. I think, when you watch a Star Wars or a Jurassic Park movie on a small screen like this, it doesn't give you the full effect. And for those of you that are listening only, I was holding up my small phone in front of my face, pretending to watch a big movie. Yeah. So, definitely one of those movies that you definitely need to see on the big screen. And looks like Spencer is taking advantage of his 80-foot screen at his local theater. But yeah, there's some people that saw it. I can't. Oh, so there's a theater here in Skokie, and I think it's like CMX or DMX or something like that. And it's basically like sometimes they offer movies in 4D,
Mm.
which is basically environmental experience. So they give the audience, what's up, Science Fictionary? There's Andrew in the chat. Thanks for stopping by and saying hello. So the theater actually gives folks in the front rows garbage bags to wear because they don't, just to protect their clothes. Because I guess, especially during water scenes or things like that,
Mm.
the theater is able to kind of spurt out like mists of water to make it
And
feel like you're in
there's
the
a
movie.
handful of water scenes too in the movie. So
Yeah, absolutely. So that would have been fun to watch. If I find it in one of those theaters, I'll definitely go watch it. But yeah, for sure, one of those movies that is definitely worth seeing in the movie theater. Although it's got some issues, and we're here to talk about those issues. But first of all, let's go over the film in broad strokes and just kind of talk about our initial feelings. If we had any thoughts going into it. And I know this is the first of a few movies that are on our list for sure. We've got Jurassic World, we've got Superman, Fantastic Four. These are the type of tentpole summer blockbuster type popcorn flicks that are built for summers anywhere. So um let's give our broad strokes reactions to what we thought the movie was. Broad strokes, I don't have a jingle, just like Sean over at Science Fictionary.
broad strokes,
Broad strokes.
broad strokes.
So, what were your expectations going into Jurassic World? And I know I always say this when we get together, we always talk about Steven Spielberg. We love his movies. Obviously, we compare, the original Jurassic Park to some films, and we talk about those aspects. But obviously, again, what were your expectations going into Jurassic World?
Yeah, I was cautiously optimistic because the whole name of like Rebirth is like, okay, they're kind of like restarting this Jurassic World. They're not retconning stuff, but they're going to try to go in a different direction. So I was cautiously optimistic because I felt like the trailers basically showed the same scenes, just maybe like would elaborate a little bit on a scene, but really they showed, you know, the what the plot was about. Oh, we got to go get this dino DNA
Yeah,
for research purposes, and then they showed like, okay, here's the Mosa a little bit. They showed a little bit of the T-Rex, and then the Rancor looking mutant bastard. He was like shown briefly. So like I felt like they didn't spoil anything for me, but at the same time, it's like I think these unfortunately I just think they've kind of turned into a paint by numbers these last couple where a mile away you're like, "Oh, when they introduce characters, if it's not a big name actor, they're dead.
they're gonna die. Yeah,
They're gonna die. If they're a jerk at all, they are
they're
dead.
gonna die. Right.
And also, everyone who's hiring these movies and it's like there's no surprise whatsoever to where I'm like, it would have been nice is if one of the times these bad guys were actually a good guy, so you would care what happened to them.
Right.
But yeah, I going into the movie, I was hopeful, but also with just the franchise, I think they're almost at similar to like a Star Wars, but because Star Wars had TV, I think their hit rate's higher. But I think they're kind of stuck in this like, hey, we know we're gonna make money, so it's almost like AI typed the script of like, here's the beats we want you to hit, and who could we get to do the movie? But then, obviously, if you're Scarlett Johansson or Mahershala Ali or Jonathan Bailey, like, look, it's a Jurassic Park movie. You're gonna get paid a lot of money. A lot of people are
Sure.
gonna come see it. I mean, Jonathan Bailey goes from Wicked to this to now Wicked Part 2. He's gonna be in 3 of the biggest movies of the last 2 years.
Mm.
I don't blame him one bit I never blame an actor for taking a project like this
Sure. Yeah.
because I still think Jurassic Park, just like Star Wars and like Marvel and DC, there's still something about like if you're in a good one of these franchise movies,
Sure.
and it's not like Battleship the movie or
I mean, they definitely have a paycheck, and you
Yeah.
can't blame an actor for wanting to get paid, especially a film like this where everybody wants to pretend to be chased by dinosaurs, especially
Mhm.
on a Jurassic type movie. I think I think yeah, definitely can't blame them. I would love to pretend that.
Yeah.
And I guess as of this recording, which we are doing Monday night, the film has had a great opening weekend.
Mhm.
A little over $320 million globally, which is not anything to sneeze about. And obviously, they just announced that Scarlett Johansson has overtaken the reins from who had it before? Sam Jackson,
Sam
Harrison
Jackson,
Ford.
but Zoe Saldana is also high up there because of the
Yeah,
Avatar movies
yeah,
and being in, Guardians and
sure,
Infinity War and Endgame. So like, yeah, she's, which is awesome for Scarlett Johansson, but for like any of these actors, you got to
sure.
put the huge asterisk because technically Sam Jackson was the number one, but like in like half of the Avengers movies, it's like literally he's credited in Endgame. He just walks in, he does nothing in that movie. So it's like I get it, but yeah, it's cool for Scarlett Johansson because
Yeah,
she's a great actress, and I could see why she did a movie like this. Especially like coming off of a couple, with COVID and stuff. Like she was just coming off. It was either right before COVID or right after when she did like the Marriage Story and Jojo Rabbit, she was nominated for both those performances. So I kind of get to when an actress is like or actor is like, you know what? I just want to do a fun movie
sure.
because I just did a couple like and same thing with Mahershala Ali. He hadn't done a movie in like 5 years
Yeah,
and he was coming off of doing some like incredible dramas. So I don't blame him for being like, hey, I want to let's
let's
go
do
do a
something
Jurassic
fun.
movie. That'd be fun.
Yeah, and I wanted to comment on that because I think we're gonna kind of talk a little bit about some of the issues that we perceived the film had, but I do want to put a little asterisk on. I had an amazing time at the theater watching this movie for various reasons. It's the I want to mention that the actors were all really great. I think there was no one actor that was kind of phoning it in. I think everybody kind of took the story seriously. They brought their A game. The set pieces, the action sequences were pretty dynamic, free flowing. What other adjectives can I use? It's
No, it
it was fun. It was
yeah.
dynamic. It moved things forward. Obviously we'll talk about, some of the misses, but as far as the hits, I mean, you and I talked about this a couple of episodes ago. I really enjoy Gareth Edwards as a director. He's competent,
Yeah.
really good guy. And obviously, we both love the creator. Rogue One, obviously.
Mhm.
Did you see? And I might have to go back and see. He directed one of the Godzilla movies, right?
Yes, the 2014 one, which is a well-made movie. It's not it was like I think they maybe mismarketed it a little bit because like they tried to push like Bryan Cranston being important in it, and it's like, oh, he's in it for like 5 minutes. And but it's a well done movie. And I
Yeah.
think Gareth Edwards, anyone judging his directing on this movie is ridiculous. Because to me, he was a hired gun for this. And again, I don't blame him for going, I will, because again, you direct Jurassic Park, and this is a classic thing in Hollywood. It's the one for you, one for me. I'm sure it's
Mhm.
okay. I'll come in and do your big studio movie. Whatever his next movie is, you bet he'll probably have a nice budget for it.
Sure.
Especially unfortunately, we've talked about how the creator just didn't do well at the box office or well enough, and it was
Mhm.
like, okay, so this could have been him being like, okay, I gotta get a blockbuster under my name again because he's kind of a big filmmaker. He's
Yeah.
definitely not a small.
Right.
And I think people who know the industry at all could see that, like, okay, it's a very well-made movie. I'm like,
Mhm.
nothing on the directing. When we get to the issues, that's not
Sure.
one of them. And like
Yeah,
you said, I mean,
absolutely.
I think he's really good at making, what you're seeing here work. Uh,
Absolutely.
and again, go watch The Creator because that's half the budget of this, maybe even a quarter of it, and it's like
Right.
he does. It's one of the best use of a budget I've seen on a big-ish looking movie is The
Right.
Creator, because that was like 80 million, and it looks
Right.
like a $200 million movie.
Absolutely. Yeah, like I said, he's very competent. I loved what he did with The Creator. And obviously, you have to credit ILM for coming back and doing what they did with that film and the special effects. Dingus Den says some great action sequences, was a fun adventure despite some of the story misses. We'll get into that in a little bit. Also, he comments, I was not a fan of The Creator, was excited and was very underwhelmed. That's fair to say. Filmed very well, but needed a better script. I'm not sure if he means The Creator or Jurassic World, but I think maybe both.
Yeah, it's hey, totally
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah.
Well, and I think this is important too, Ro, and we've talked about it. Everyone should go see a movie. Like, because when I put out my kind of thoughts of the movie, I had a few people message me that were like, "Oh, I was really looking forward to seeing it." And I'm like, well, "You should still go because I
Yeah.
saw people who loved it. I saw people who hated it." And I go, "I'm not on either fence." To me, it's what are your expectations? Like, I think at this point, what a Jurassic World movie has shown you is that you're not getting the first Jurassic Park.
Sure.
So, not that we shouldn't set the bar there, but you're just not getting that. Is it? Do you enjoy it? And I think, I did enjoy this movie, even with all the issues I had with it. I don't regret going to see it. I'm not going to lie to people and go, oh no, yeah, no, I loved it. It's like, no,
Yeah.
I just thought it was okay, and that's fine.
Yeah.
It's just, I think for anything, listen to people whose opinions you trust, but still go see it because
Sure.
you never know too. A movie could be ruined because of the experience you're having in the theater as well. I've had that happen where there was a great movie and someone was doing something during it, so I was distracted. And
Mhm.
then half the movie, I'm like, I don't even know what's going on because I can't stop looking at this person who's
Oh,
doing
yeah.
crap. And so
That's
it's
too
like,
bad.
in the moment you might be like, oh, this movie's just okay. And then you watch it later and you're like, oh no, it's great or whatever.
Mhm.
So yeah, I just think you should always go see a movie to form your own opinion. Just if everyone you trust is saying it's bad, then maybe you do wait to see it when it
Sure.
comes to streaming. If you have because I have a handful of people who I would be like, okay, what do they say? Even if I don't agree
Mhm.
with them, I want to know, like, did they? You're one of them. Look, you and I don't always agree on every movie, but we'll both be like, hey, here's what I thought, why I
Mhm.
liked it.
Sure.
Let me know what you think when you see it.
Yeah, absolutely. You said something earlier. If you go to a Jurassic World movie, you're not going to get the original Jurassic Park. But let's talk about that because I do feel like, and I mentioned it uh, earlier in the week, over the weekend, when I posted my first reaction. I said that this was like the Force Awakens of Jurassic Park movies. And what I meant by that is that when the Force Awakens came out, people reacted to it, whatever. They said it was kind of a retread of A New Hope. You had a droid with secret plans. You had obviously the bad guy that was Kylo Ren wanted to be Darth Vader. So there were a lot of things in the Force Awakens that were kind of a throwback to A New Hope, to the original Star Wars, which in all fairness, yes, you can argue that. I saw a lot of that similar story structure, and even mechanically with some of the action sequences to be very much like some of the things that we saw in the original Jurassic Park. I mean, even down to in the original Jurassic Park, when the kids are hiding from the dinosaurs in the kitchen, and they're going over the counters and smelling and looking for the kids. You saw that in this film as well, when the protagonist went to go recruit the scientist nerdy guy in the museum. The crew of the scientists were putting some bones together, and there was this one wide shot where there were the skeletons of a dinosaur. There was a banner behind it. It was falling in exactly the same way that the original banner behind the
Yeah,
T-Rex,
the like when dinosaurs roamed the earth.
ruled
Banner, yeah.
yeah. So that was a complete callback to the original, shot, almost shot by shot exact composition. And obviously, you know, we as moviegoers, we get a nostalgic look, you know, from new movies that harken back to the movies that we love. That's kind of a normal thing. But I feel like overall, this movie seemed to almost be, I don't want to say a carbon copy of the original Jurassic Park, because there's some things that it's missing. Obviously, you know, we talk about Gareth Edwards is a competent director, but he is no Steven Spielberg. And I think those are some of the things that are missing. Similar to when I described watching, you know, the last Indiana Jones movie, there was just something missing, and I think that a big part of it was Steven Spielberg's magic, George Lucas's magic. So that's what I mean by this seems to be the Force Awakens of Jurassic Park movies.
For sure. And I think Jurassic Park's the example of when a property's not meant to be a franchise. Because the original book, there was never going to be a sequel. It was when they decided to turn it from a book into a movie, and the movie was the most successful movie up until that point, and they were like, holy crap, now we got to do a sequel. And they like asked Michael Crichton, like, you need to knock out a sequel. And that's why he's like admitted that the sequel he wrote is nowhere near as good as the first movie, because his heart wasn't in it the same. And I like both books, and I think what they're starting to do now is take elements of that first book, because that first book had, like I've mentioned a few times, I think with you, if you could do it as a mini series, you could get 6, 7 1-hour episodes just from that book. And if you did it exactly like the book, it would blow people's minds who have never read it, because it's nothing like any of the movies. And I see why they made a lot of the changes they did, because I just think in 93, it was too long of a book. You know, you're trying to do a 2-hour long movie, and they just couldn't do a lot of the stuff that they do in the book. And I like the changes. And I think, like, for me, I like both. I'm like, there's people who poo-poo the movie because it's not like the book, and then there's other people who are like, oh, screw the book, it's the movie. And it's like, hey, both could be great and just different. And that's what I'm fine with. And I think the problem is they're just running into, like, again, because they make money, and this movie's gonna be interesting because it's gonna, like, now you have Superman coming out, and then there's a week where there's no big movie for like teens or adults. There's like the Smurfs movie, which I don't think is going to like do anything too crazy. And then it's Fantastic Four. So I'm curious the legs of this movie, because the word of mouth is so mixed, to say the least, because critically it got panned. And then, like, I feel like even like word of mouth's not been so strong, but it's still a Jurassic Park. And if you see the logo or a Jurassic World, it's like, yeah, you got exactly. And it's like, everybody knows that. You don't even have to know what Jurassic Park or have seen one. If you see that thing, you know, oh, it's a dinosaur movie. Like, okay.
Yeah, who doesn't like dinosaurs?
Exactly. And so I think they're running into this thing of like they don't have enough source material to pull from now, because now, like I said, they've kind of picked and choose certain aspects of that first book. And I think they just so many big budget ones, they just have a formula, and because they're successful, they're not realizing, like, you know, you could do a smaller movie and still go gangbusters at the box office and make a better one. Like, I'd love to see a more, there was a short film that came out that was like 10 minutes long that came out on Netflix. It was right in between Fallen Kingdom and Dominion. And it's just this family at a campground.
Oh, yeah.
And the dinosaur comes and they're able to escape. And it's like, you could do a movie like that, and not a short movie, but like you could do one where it's just maybe a family trying to survive something.
Yeah.
And it would still make a lot of money. I don't think they need to do what they do, but again, to them, they'd say, well, Nick, these make $1 million or $1 billion each. So we know what we're doing, and they don't care. Like, you know, so.
Yeah, and it's interesting because out of the all the summer movies that I mentioned earlier, you know, Jurassic World, Superman, Fantastic Four, I think this one, Jurassic World, for me was the one that I was really looking forward to the most. I think out of all the trailers that we've seen of the 3 movies, I think I really connected and was curious about seeing this. So tomorrow I go see Superman with my son, and then obviously I'll go see Fantastic Four. Which it's funny because on the level, I'm a more of a Marvel guy than a DC guy, but I'm really curious to see what James Gunn has done is going to do with Superman. It's a morbid curiosity because, again, for me, I'm not one of those Snyder cultists, but I really enjoyed Man of Steel. Really love that movie. And obviously Henry Cavill's portrayal of Superman for me was up there. I will say that Chris Reeve as Superman is probably the tops for me. He is unmatched. But we'll see what happens tomorrow. At in the evening when I come back from seeing Superman, what I think.
Yeah, you'll have to text me. I'm curious.
Yeah.
Because I'm able to see it the weekend. I'm going to try to go next weekend. But I also, really quick, when you were talking about your rankings, it's funny. So, like, my number one out of those 3 is Fantastic Four. And not because I've never liked the Fantastic Four movies, but I love this cast. I love
Mhm.
the way it looks, the whole, like, it's a futuristic 60s. Like, I
Right.
love that. I love Michael Giacchino's score. And my son is so excited to go see it. So, like, for me, I was like, "Oh, you want to see Fantastic Four?" He goes, "Oh yeah, we go see Fantastic Four." I'm like, "Yeah." Well,
Yeah,
I'm
that's
like,
good.
"Daddy's gonna go first to see it, and then I will take you to an early showing if I think you could handle it." But I'm like, "Sure, you really want to see it?" And then Jurassic Park was in the middle because I've never liked Superman, but I
Mhm.
love James Gunn. So I'm like you said, it's that morbid curiosity of, like, I've just never been a big fan of that character. I like some of DC's, but I've always been more Batman, like, of the
Yeah.
movies. Like, oh, I just like Batman more. So I'm curious what, and I think, you know, really the movies need both Superman and Fantastic Four to be really good, not just for their respective companies, but
Companies, right.
you really, if you want to get people back excited about superheroes, then this is a kind of a good 1-2 punch. And they both kind of have a similar theme of hope and family. And it's like, these are what superhero movies are supposed to be about. So it's going to be curious how those movies kind of, like I said, do they monopolize each other? Do they help each other? Because if you're Fantastic Four, you almost hope Superman's really good, because then I think it gets people more excited to see the next movie, even if they don't connect. Like, they're
Mhm.
not part of the same thing.
Sure.
But I feel like when one big budget movie sucks, it has a ripple effect, because then it's like, oh great, that Superman movie was a bomb.
So
Well,
the
why would
rest
I
of
want
them
to go
are
see?
probably
Yeah,
right.
so, like, why do I want to go
Yeah.
see another superhero movie? It's kind of like Jurassic Park's a little different because it's specifically dinosaurs. So it's like, oh,
Mhm.
there's there's no game in town for Jurassic Park. They're
Sure.
not competing with, like, another dinosaur franchise,
Right.
which is
Yeah.
interesting. There's not a Star Trek to Star Wars. There's not
Right.
Marvel to DC. It's like, it's almost like these movies maybe compete a little with, like, the Too Fast, Too Furious movies, maybe, but,
No,
like,
you know what? I mean, if you're going to like compare them, and I know we don't have a new one coming up, but I would say like the King Kong
yeah,
franchise.
you know what? That's fair. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's probably the same, because those Kong and Godzilla movies
Right.
are like, no one cares about the humans. You can't remember their names. You just want to see Godzilla and Kong beat the crap out of monsters.
Mm,
Like, so you're right. That's probably the closest thing to,
sure.
like any competition. But yeah, it's just gonna be interesting what the legs of this movie are, because that's also like, there's
Yeah.
a lot coming out, man. It's July is stacked, and then it
Sure.
ends with what I'm really excited for is, like, we have the Naked Gun, like,
Oh
reboot
yeah.
rethink
Right.
that looks hilarious. So it's like, I'm
Mhm.
curious how, like, a movie like that, because there's no comedies coming out,
Right.
so that's like the only comedy of, like, the next 3 months. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. It's one of those, I kind of want to fast forward to the end of July to see, like, what did all these movies do.
Sure.
Though Fantastic Four and Superman, you kind of got to give them, like, into August to see,
Mhm.
what
Well,
they're
and hopefully, because I think, hopefully there won't be that much of a drop off over the first weekend. People see it, the word of mouth, becomes terrible, and then that second week it's like it plummets
yeah.
and nobody goes to see it. And we've seen that happen before in movie theaters. Thank you, Backyard TARDIS. That film that you were talking about is called Battle at Big Rock.
Yes, thank
And
you.
I remember a couple of years ago when that first came out, everybody ran to the YouTube to watch it. It was really great. Yeah, so
They mention it in Dominion
yeah,
briefly. It's like on a news report,
right.
and yeah, now that's a movie I had high hopes for. If we want to talk about like actually being let down, I was so let down by that movie because I was so excited to get the OG trio back, and then it was like, that's what you did with them.
Yeah, exactly. I haven't seen that. I dropped off of, I think the last Jurassic movie I saw was the first one with Pratt, where he tells the dinosaur to stop by holding his hand up. That one. That's the last one I saw.
I have a great joke I would love to do. I want there to be this Universal movie with these people who get trapped in Universal Studios and everything comes to life and they have to like get through, so almost like a Jumanji but with specifically these movies, and have Chris Pratt make a cameo when they're getting chased by raptors and he's like, "Hey, eyes on me," with his hand up, and then they just eat him. And it's like, because the joke would be like, yeah, of course raptors would not
Right.
listen to.
Yeah.
It's funny, yeah. Backyard Tortoise, completely the opposite of us. I
Yeah.
like when people have different opinions. That's
Sure,
good,
sure.
man.
Yeah. Thank you, Nick without a K. He says, for me, I'm the exact opposite. The cast turned me off of Fantastic Four. James Gunn turned me off on Superman, but Jurassic Park is my most anticipated movie of the year. And you and I, Nick, we've talked about James Gunn. And when Guardians of the Galaxy, and I'll say this because I know Backyard TARDIS is not a big fan of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, but when I went to the movie theater to see the third one, I didn't know what to expect. But I was pleasantly surprised at how much emotion I felt after watching that film. And hopefully I'll be pleasantly surprised after tomorrow watching Superman. I have a feeling like James Gunn does animals well. Obviously, he is the guardian of the Guardians of the Galaxy, and hopefully I'll be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, and also like his style, because he also did the Suicide Squad movie, and it's like he's got such a unique style for buddy kind of team up movies.
Yeah,
And my only fear right now about Superman is in the trailers, they do show a lot of characters. And I know he was like, well, in Oppenheimer, there's 50 speaking roles. I'm like, yeah, but it's a Superman movie. I don't want half of it to be about all these other superheroes. I want it to be more because he's supposed to be your biggest guy. Like, so I again, it's not like I'm gonna stop me from watching it. It's just they introduce all these different Green
Sure.
Lantern, Hawker, all these people, and I'm like, well, I don't want this movie to be a giant team up. I want it to
Right.
be Superman against Lex Luthor type of battle of the guy who's super smart against the unbeatable object, And so I am curious. I'm curious if it's how much mud does he throw at the wall in this movie, because they do need it to be a big hit. As much
Sure.
as James Gunn has downplayed it, I'm like, you cannot have this movie flop. This
Yeah.
is your big gun. I saw some people go, well, Marvel started with Iron Man, and I'm like, yeah, but they weren't expecting what they got. And
Right.
also Marvel, Iron Man was like a B-lister for them.
Sure. Yeah.
You're starting with besides Batman, Superman is
starting-
DC's A. Like, this is your
Yeah.
guy who it has to hit with. So,
Mhm.
and same thing for Fantastic Four really needs to hit too. Otherwise, you're going to turn people off for your big slated, Spider-Man movie next year
Sure.
and Doomsday. So it's like, it's big for both studios. It's going to be fascinating. Whereas like Jurassic World, they're like, we're going to make our money and then we'll figure out
Sure.
what we're going to do for the second one.
Right.
'Cause
right.
there's another one coming. There ain't no way
Yeah.
in hell
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
not going to do another one.
So the Jedi of Chicago, thanks for joining us. Saw Rebirth last week. It was just fine. And yeah, I mean, that's the sentiment, but I think again, we're going to put a little asterisk on there. Still go see it in the theater. If you have to maybe go on a Tuesday night where ticket prices are half off, go see it because it's definitely worth seeing on a big screen. And I forgot. So, who does the music? Was it Michael?
No. I don't know who composed this because they credit obviously John Williams not as a composer, but
But
because
the
of the
first,
theme. I'm not sure. I don't think it was like a big name composer. I didn't think.
Alexander Desplat, some French guy. Yeah. Actually, I thought it was the guy that did the Mandalorian. Music.
I know you're talking about
Goranson.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw his name somewhere. It may not have been Jurassic World. But okay, so obviously we mentioned the fact that Gareth Edwards is a competent director. He's fine. He did a good job with this. Some of the things that we are going to cite as misses have nothing to do with directing. But what are some of the other things that you really liked? Some of the hits for you? Name a couple of those. Let's run those off before we get into the bad stuff.
You and I texted about this. Hearing the original theme on the big screen will never not like just get you in awe for that moment. Like it's one of the most exciting scores or themes of a score. And so when they do play that, during some of the scenes, it's like, oh man, I love that. That like it's like
it still hits.
Keep feeding it, man.
Yeah.
Like I said, I thought Jonathan Bailey did the most with what he was given. I thought he did a good job because his is the only character who I think has really anything interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I thought visually looked good. I thought the special effects looked great.
Oh yeah, I turned to my buddy who was with me. I said, "You know what? At this point, ILM is just showing off."
Yeah, no, I thought they looked
seamless.
fantastic. The water stuff looked great. I thought the river raft scene.
Yeah.
While it's way more intense in the book, I thought it visually looked great. I thought the T-Rex looked amazing. And this is like, and like I said, I think, I think those would probably be some of the big, like, oh yeah, this was good. Like those would probably be some of the things. And again, I do think, even though I didn't love it, I would still say go see it on the big screen. That's just to me how it should be seen the first time.
Yeah, I think visually it's flawless, stunning. The sound is amazing. Again,
really quick, the boyfriend, actually, his jokes landed well in the crowd I was in. I thought he was funny.
Oh, okay.
And like the crowd loved his like goofy kind of almost stoner guy thing.
Mm-hmm.
So like his jokes to me worked. Not that this movie's very jokey, but I think, like there's tongue-in-cheek stuff. And then I thought his stuff was like, his jokes played well in the crowd I was in, which helped.
One of the things that really I enjoyed all the actors, right down to Rupert Friend's portrayal of the greedy corporate guy. I understood him. Rupert Friend is a really great actor. I loved him on Homeland. He did what he did as the Grand Inquisitor in the Kenobi series. We won't get into that. I think Mahershala Ali was amazing as usual. He always brings his A game. So again, it's like the only thing that was lacking was I guess the overall story. But everything else just kind of fell into place. I mean, even the actor that played the dad, the dad.
Yeah, I like him. Yeah, I thought
he was really good.
And that opening when they're on the boat getting almost attacked looked great. Again, like that was good because they didn't show any of that in the trailer. That particular so again, I thought the boyfriend for sure. I was like, oh, he's gonna.
Yeah, and a couple of things. One thing that bothers me about these types of movies, and I can kind of say the same thing about, the Friday the 13th, the Halloween movies, the slasher flicks, is when characters do dumb things and expect, a completely different result. Like, and one of the, is it a Geico commercial that makes fun of the kids that hide in the barn from the slash
Yeah. Yeah.
with the barn that's filled with all these knives and tools that they can get killed with. The father and the family that goes on a sailing trip along the equator where they're not supposed to be.
Mhm.
Things like that kind of like irk me, bother me. But again, these types of movies, you kind of have to kind of maybe leave your brain behind and go in and just expect a rip roaring, dinosaur chase type film. For the summer, something to have fun with and stuff like that. So that's the only thing that bothers me. Again, I expect it. It is, part of the deal when you go into a Jurassic Park type movie. You're going to get chased by dinosaurs. Otherwise, it'd be a short movie. It's
Mhm.
you got to have that chase.
And this movie almost, I saw someone had a tweet that I agreed with. They were like, this movie felt more like Jurassic Park 4 than it was a
Yeah.
Jurassic World, because this had a very similar beat as the third movie.
Hmm.
And honestly, I almost wish that's where the story would have been, is that they were like on a rescue mission. I almost would have thought that was better than doing like the greedy business guy who is going to turn bad and then get killed last because
Hmm.
he's the evil, like, oh, like I don't respect dinosaurs, blah blah blah. And I think, like, they don't do enough for you to care that they get killed.
Right.
And also, when you this is also an issue too. When you cast people as big as Scarlett Johansson and Mahershala Ali, they're not going to die, and
Hmm.
that anything that they're maybe in risk of, they'll be fine. And then that anyone who comes into the movie who is a no name, you're like, you are just being
Right.
fed to dinosaurs. And like,
You're a Star Trek guy wearing a red shirt.
exactly. And like when the one Australian guy is a jerk, and it's like, well, you're gonna get killed because you're
Right.
just being
Yeah.
a douche for no reason. And
Exactly.
so the only one who I thought would have maybe in the trailer was, I thought Jonathan Bailey was gonna be bad, so I was relieved that
Yeah.
he's just a nerd who's so.
Sure.
I just think, I think my only issue was, like, the story made sense what they were doing, but like you said, there was people still doing stupid things where I think they
Right.
could have changed it to like, hey, this family was in an area that they were fine. They get boat wrecked or something and end up on that island, and now it's
Hmm.
we're gonna try to rescue them while also doing something, and then
Sure.
you could do a lot of the same. Or we'll talk. Could we spoil? Are we spoiling at all the
Yeah,
Snickers
completely
thing?
spoiler. Yeah, that's
Okay.
what I was gonna say. The other
That
the other
felt
thing
very
too,
Final Destination and not Jurassic
totally.
Park.
Yeah, it's and that was like that was the thing that kind of spun everything out of control. If you're going to have a like in the real world, if something is going to be as sensitive uh to having somebody bring in a Snickers bar and drop the wrapper and cause all this havoc, don't you think that company would have some sort of safety protocols to
Yeah.
make sure that nobody brings in, I mean, when we edit, a lot of times they're like, you can't bring in coffee in where the computers are, so why would you bring in a Snickers on this very expensive, and for
Well,
those.
he's also a scientist, and he just throws it on the floor. Like,
Yeah, right.
come on.
Yeah.
You could have just had the door malfunction, like, or maybe like it got frost or something in there that could have made more sense than like,
Yeah.
oh, a Snickers wrapper. Again, it felt very Final Destination of like,
Yeah.
Jeff's coming for you. Ooh, look, it blew this Snickers wrapper and it ruined the door. And it's like, oh,
But I,
come on.
and I wonder too if Snickers paid the company, some
Oh,
cash
some
for
serious product
product
placement.
placement.
I love Dr. Pepper, and there's a clear, like, Dr.
Yeah.
Pepper being like, because I work for them and we always sponsored the Jurassic Park movies, and it was like, there's like literally in the gas station that nice
Right.
display, and it's like, that hasn't been touched for 13 years. Why does it look so nice? Like,
Yeah. People come in and clean it often.
Apparently so.
Yeah.
Like it still wasn't a
Yeah.
bad gas station.
So so the Snickers thing was like, oh, come on. And that was like the first thing. I'm looking
Yeah.
at it and I'm like, oh, really? All right. I'll just, we'll keep going. We'll keep going. I did have when that happened and the door malfunctioned and you had the scientist that was trapped inside with the big dinosaur, the doors closed. The other scientists wanted to open the door, but realized that the mutant dinosaur was behind the trapped scientist. I got, that last scene in Rogue One with Vader in the red mist and the
Oh
lightsaber
yeah,
goes
yeah,
on.
yeah.
I definitely got like Vader vibes off of that. And I said it figures because it's Gareth Edwards. He did Rogue One. So those are the kind of Easter eggs that were like kind of cool. The other one too was the stop motion animation, The Lost World, that was playing on the small TV in the boat, which was kind of cool too. But yeah, the Snickers thing was like an eye roll moment at the very top of the film. But again, it's just one of those things that maybe you would expect to see in that kind of movie that gets kind of the ball rolling. It's ridiculous beyond belief, but it is what it is.
Yeah, and I know you didn't mind the mutant Rancor dinosaur. I just wish he didn't have that face. Like he just looked too much like it. Um and also like a T-Rex is just still scarier than all the mutant ones they've tried to do. And I think
Yeah.
still made it where like T-Rex is the big monster and it's like why I think the first movie's so effective. It was just the T-Rex and Raptors were really the like holy crap. And then obviously the Dilophosaurus kills Newman, but like in general, it was like, oh, what's terrifying? A T-Rex. He's huge and
Yeah.
fast and just is a
Still.
killing machine still.
Yeah.
And also, what else is scary? Raptors. They're big
Mhm.
and they're even faster and they're smarter than a T-Rex.
Clever girl.
Yeah, clever girl. And like they tried to do like you said, they tried to do the Raptor thing in the gas station, and
Yeah.
I
I
was
mean,
like,
it
huh,
was
okay,
it was exactly the same. I mean, some of the beats were
yeah,
exactly the same. The camera goes down, you can see the foot of of the dinosaur, and then the camera comes up, and you hear a noise off in off in the distance. So it was very very similar. Like I said, similar beats. Um, what were your thoughts on? I guess it's funny. There was a tongue-in-cheek moment where when they were explaining that if the headquarters lost communication with the team, that for a certain amount of time, that would kind of trigger a helicopter to come over and fly around for only 2 minutes to try and
mhm,
rescue them.
yeah,
And I can see everybody in my theater going, wait a minute, why 2 minutes? Why don't they circle longer? And then Jonathan Bailey's character said the same thing. Like he was thinking the same thing that the audience was thinking. Like, wait a minute, why 2 minutes? Why can't they fly longer? What were your thoughts on the overall resolution of how the movie ended?
um, it was okay. It was again, you knew the family would survive. You knew Mahershala Ali was not going to die when he's trying to like sacrifice
I
his
was
son.
on the edge. I was on the edge.
Well, I did think at
I
first
thought
he
it was
might.
going to be like one of those sacrificial things. Like I'm going to sacrifice myself so the rest of the team can be
But you see, the
rescued.
giveaway was they kind of show that in the trailer, and when she's like
Mm,
yelling for Duncan, I'm like, I feel like if he was gonna die,
yeah.
like Force Awakens did a good job of not showing any part of like when Han Solo, like there's no like Ray yelling no of like him dying in the trailer where you're like, oh, Harrison Ford's just in it, so
Yeah.
that moment played a little bit better. But yeah, I mean there are parts where you maybe thought he was. I would have liked them to do more with Scarlett Johansson's character. She fell to me flat. Like I just
Hmm.
didn't care. Like I don't know. She didn't have like I don't know. Like the whole I'm just a mercenary, and it's like okay. I don't know. They tried to play it cute with like her and Jonathan Bailey's characters, and I'm like I don't know. I think they tried doing more with Mahershala Ali with giving the backstory of like, oh, his son. But I hated that they gave their backstory in one conversation between the two of them. Of like,
And I think
she's
it
like,
was too soon.
it was.
It
How
was
about
'cause
like when you meet the father
yeah,
and he's yelling? Like, I like when he's talking to the father, like, why would you do that? Why would you
yeah,
put your family at risk? Like, that would have been a good way to get into his backstory. Not
sure.
we need the exposition of, hey, here's why you should feel for these guys because something happened with his 3-year-old son. And
Yeah, and it's funny because I felt like they did that exposition too soon because I didn't care about the characters yet. We're still
yeah.
trying to find out, what makes them tick and stuff like that. But I think that's a great idea. They should have introduced that when they rescued the family,
Mhm.
because that would have been, a bit of a like some sort of connective tissue as to why all of a sudden there's this exposition about his family.
Yeah, and I also think the Rupert friend, I would have rather him not be a bad guy, and so you root for him, and then when he gets killed, it could have been more of like he's
Right.
trying to like he's like I'm gonna go start the boat, hurt like tell everyone where to go, and then gets killed trying to help. Instead of just like again because they've done it now in Fallen Kingdom, they've done it in Dominion, they've kind of did it in Jurassic World, where it's just the like mustache twirling bad
Mm,
guy. And it's kind of why I like Jurassic Park 3 is there is no human bad guy where you're just
mhm,
like and again there's plenty of faults with that movie too, but that movie's also an literally it's an hour and 35 minutes. It's one of the shortest
mm,
big budget movies, and I think that movie knew the assignment of like we're just going to get in, get to the island. I feel like this one kind of did that, and but like I said, like you said, I think the backstories came too soon before we got to know the characters more.
yeah.
Um And because I thought like one of the bits that I think did play well was when Jonathan Bailey's like, "Let me shoot the mosasaur with this dart," and then she's kind of like explaining to him like, "Okay, well we're gonna be choppy, the water's choppy, you got to hit him
Right.
like,"
Yeah.
and then he's just like, "Okay, maybe you take it." Like, okay,
Yeah.
fine. That's like they know this guy's a fish out of water and isn't like meant to be doing this stuff. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I just it would be nice for them to surprise you with one of these movies, like, of
Yeah.
not knowing what's gonna happen. Like I said, most of the beats you kinda knew, and you also know ki and again, it's not about killing kids, but, like, why Jaws is so effective is it kills a kid right away, and you're like,
Mhm.
"Oh my god," so now you fear when the
Sure.
children are in the water. In Jurassic Park, kids are never gonna die.
Yeah.
Like, you're just like, "Okay, the kids will somehow."
But, again, that's another thing that Spielberg excels at.
Yeah.
The kids aren't gonna die, but there is still that chance that maybe they might
Yeah,
die.
but
There's
in
that
the
that
first
sense
one,
of
there was that chance, and
yeah,
then afterwards, you're just like, "Okay, if there's a kid in it now, we know that they'll." But he
yeah.
built good suspense for those kids, and you're like, "Holy crap!" And I just thought the little girl was great in this movie, and
Mhm.
like the little connection she has with the little
Sure.
dinosaur. I actually didn't mind that at all. I thought that would have worked, and like I said, I feel like the family was like all of them did fine in their part. I just feel like it was how they got to the island. I just didn't like because, like you said, that dad seems too smart to do something so stupid of like
Right.
going on this
Bringing 'em
water
there.
that's clearly in a dangerous area.
And, again, that might have worked better if, the Mahershala Ali character, scolded him at that point.
Hmm.
Which, he kind of did, but I think it would have worked better if we, I don't know, teased out a little bit more of why he was so defensive against the dad
Yeah, and then
instead
maybe
of
have a
having
scene
that
between the two of
exposition.
them. Yeah, and I think you could have even had a scene later on in the movie between Mahershala and the dad of like,
Right.
here's why I attacked you, dude, and I'm sorry for that. Like something, just not just him and Scarlett being like, "Hey, I haven't seen you in a while." Yeah, well, I'm no longer with my wife because a son died, and then why are you here? Oh, because a guy I went on a mission with got killed, and blah blah. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, you can't give us two sap stories in a row because that's like
Sure.
the you see now you care about them, and it's like, well,
Yeah.
not
You
really.
don't.
We
Not
don't know their
really.
character.
Yeah. Yeah. It was too soon for sure. It was
Yeah.
too soon. Yeah, I was searching to see who wrote the script, David Kep, and I've, obviously
He's had an
he's
interesting filmography, David Koepp.
yeah,
It
he
feels like his
has.
movies either have been really well written or really like because I didn't think the dialogue was that good in this movie. It was just
No,
okay,
right,
but
right. And interesting enough, he is Born in Chicago, died in Los Angeles. I didn't know
No,
he was from Chicago.
no, Michael. No, they just
Oh,
had an
I'm
interview with
sorry.
David.
That's
You're
Mike.
thinking of Michael
Right.
Crichton.
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, wait,
I have his name on one side and then Michael Crichton's bio's on the other side for some reason. Why is that?
I was like, David Kemp was just interviewed
Yeah, I'm
because
like,
he's
oh no, he died years ago. How did he write this movie?
yeah, how did he write this movie? Well, no, because he's written like a bunch
Yeah.
of like he wrote like Crystal Skull. He's written Jurassic Park. He wrote The Lost World. Like he's helped him with apologies.
Mhm.
He's helped him with stuff where you're like, oh, that's like because like the script for Jurassic Park's really good and the dialogue's good. It's why people fell in love with those characters. You know, I feel like you gave Dr. Grant and Ellie and Ian Malcolm, like you gave him all this stuff, and even John Hammond got some stuff.
Nick says, I get why they don't want the kids to get eaten, but stop putting kids in the movies.
That's what I think. I think it would help. Look, Jurassic World did this no favors when you made the clone girl in the second one, and then in the third movie, they're like, oh, because I just rewatched part of it before this, before going to see it, and there's like a news outlet where they're like, oh yeah, dinosaurs now there's like 40 deaths a year caused by dinosaurs. I'm like, because the girl let them out in the most
Right,
dumb,
yeah.
stupid, like, oh, we cloned a human person, and then she just lets all the dinosaurs run free. And I do think a lot of people why they were maybe disappointed with the last two Jurassic Worlds is we thought they were gonna maybe go more the Planet of the Apes route, where it's like,
Mhm.
oh, what if like dinosaurs actually did rule the world
Yeah,
again, or
right.
were like actually involved? And then they quickly were like, okay, but the movie in Dominion is gonna take place in a sanctuary, which is a park.
Mhm.
This movie's like, well, they're all basically dead in the United States and around the world, minus just this surrounding equator island where they happen to have done experiments on mutant dinosaurs. And it's like, it would have just been nice if it was like, hey, no, there's dinosaurs roaming around and this family gets lost in Montana somewhere and now there's a T-Rex chasing them. Like,
Yeah.
just to try something different.
I'm gonna put up Jedi of Chicago's comment earlier. He says, I just don't know if there's a lot of story that you can tell with a Jurassic Park outside of people getting lost in the park and having to survive.
Totally fair.
And obviously if they went back to a secluded island to try to figure that out, I mean, there's so much you can do with dinosaurs, roaming free in public. I don't know. You'd have to really weave a compelling story on how to handle that, because I think it'd be chaos.
Yeah, but you could also like I know people are dumb in real life, but how many times
Yeah.
do you need to go to an island and
And
get attacked by dinosaurs for you to stop doing it? And it's
right.
like no matter
Yeah.
what, it never works. And they're like, no, 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 we'll just keep going and going. And
Yeah.
so I agree with him. But again, it's my point earlier is the original Jurassic Park was never meant to be a franchise.
Yeah.
And it's like this is what happens when you had this great idea and they like everyone jokes, but like Ian Malcolm's 100% correct in the first movie when he says just because you could do something doesn't mean you should.
Right.
And unfortunately, movies and look, movie studios have one objective to make money.
Right.
What this franchise is basically box office Teflon. It always will make money. And unfortunately, the industry, though, needs these movies because original movies just tend to not do very well. Like F1 is making a lot of money, but Apple also is one of the most lucrative companies in the world. If the movie would have flopped, it doesn't hurt them the same. They're like, whatever, we'll charge more for iPhone cords and people will have to buy them. Like,
Right.
I just think we're at this interesting time where people complain about, well, there's no original cinema. And it's like, there is. You're just not going to see it.
Right. You're not going to see it.
Studios aren't going to market it the same because they know what makes money now.
Right.
There's a like Randy says in Scream, there's a very simple formula to this. And unfortunately, like the next Jurassic Park could literally be the same exact movie as this Rebirth with a new group of people going to an island and everything happens the same. It'll still make money because it's a Jurassic Park movie.
Sure. Yeah. People like dinosaurs.
Mhm.
just as a part of a little trivia here before we wrap up, I just did some research on how much money all the Jurassic Park movies have made. What's your guess?
I'm gonna say, okay, so I know it's more than 3 billion because the Jurassic World movies alone made over 3 billion. I'm gonna say, as of today, I'm gonna say like it's gonna sound low because of the Jurassic World movies making what they did, but I'm gonna say 4.5 only because movies weren't making $1 billion generally in the 90s. Even the huge movies. Now that I'm saying it,
Although the first one did make 2.3 billion.
holy shit, I didn't know it made that much.
Yep.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if that counts for like re-releases too, because it's been released in theaters so many times.
Mm-hmm.
So, holy crap, the first Jurassic Park made 2.3 billion?
Yeah.
Or is that Jurassic World?
Jurassic Park, 1993.
Wow, I didn't know it made that much.
Yeah.
Okay, well now I sound like a dumbass. I'm gonna go with 8 billion then.
Yeah, the actual number is like right in the middle. It's $6 billion.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
See, because I was
And
thinking of, again,
yeah,
besides Titanic, I don't remember a movie hitting like $1 billion in the 90s, but I guess, yeah, the first Jurassic Park would have then.
and they all have reached $1 billion except for 3.
And that's
And that
the
is
current one.
Jurassic Park 3,
Mm-hmm.
Jurassic World right now, so far.
Mm-hmm.
No, actually, and no, they've all made more than $1 billion except for Jurassic Park 3 and Rebirth.
Okay. So even the Lost World,
Yeah, The Lost World was 1.2 billion, 1997. Wow. So yeah, people are definitely digging those dinosaurs. See what I did there?
yeah. Yeah, holy crap. Well, so I'm looking at Box Office Mojo. So where are you looking? Because it says Jurassic World, The Lost World made.
I'm looking at Deadline and Slash Film.
Okay, I wonder if they're adjusting that for inflation. Because according to this, it's box office. If you just take it at what it made in '97, this is still a lot of money. 618 million. So
I got 652 lifetime gross.
Okay, lifetime gross. Okay, so yeah, so I wonder if maybe what they did was adjust for inflation. Either way, though, you said the box office for all the Jurassic Parks and Worlds right now is about 6.5-ish billion.
Yeah,
like that's insane.
Yeah,
because like you said, I think the third one financially was not like a huge hit.
Oh, and they do break up the re-release in 2018. Jurassic Park made a little over 370,000.
Okay,
so that's just the re-release.
So yeah, so I mean, it's made again, and also think about all the merchandise as like, yeah, that's it. Again, it's these movies are always going to make money, so it's just
look at this. The Jurassic Park re-release in 2020, 1.3 million. In 2023, the re-release 30th anniversary of Jurassic Park, almost 3 million. I mean, people want to, and that's the cool thing. I mean, these are movies that people own on disc, people own on home. It's been streaming, but they still want to go see a movie on the big screen. And I know a lot of people are not fans of going and sludging their family to movie theaters, but it's definitely a communal experience. Something that we definitely would recommend.
And I love re-releases, to be quite honest. Like, as much as I want to go see new movies, but there are lulls in the movie seasons where you'll have like a couple of weeks where you're like, oh, nothing big's coming out that like, because even sometimes great movies, I'm sorry, there's some movies that are great, but I don't need to see on the big screen because I'm like, okay, that's a 3.5 hour long movie about a subject matter that's just too depressing, that
right.
And again, it doesn't have to be a blockbuster, but like, I saw the movie like Manchester by the Sea on the big screen. That movie's so depressing and it's a great movie, but I never need to watch it again. And I'm like, I probably could have just watched that on HBO and felt just as depressing without
You
going.
you didn't buy the Manchester by the Sea popcorn bucket?
No, I did not, which would have been, I guess, cocaine on fire. I don't know. Like that movie's pretty messed up.
Totally.
I do have my Jaws popcorn bucket staring right at me. And when
Very
the
nice.
one guy said he doesn't like Guardians of the Galaxy, I'm looking at my wall full of Guardian stuff. I was like,
That's
ew.
funny.
But I do have Jurassic Park stuff everywhere too. So
Very nice, very nice. So yeah, I mean, like I said, this is one of those movies that we definitely, both of us, I guess, if I can speak for you, definitely recommend going to a movie theater to watch it. It's fun, it's visceral, it's exciting. You may know what's going to happen. You may know what dinosaur may lurk around the corner, but it's still a fun experience to have with friends. Go have a drink and then head on over to your local Cineplex. How many T-Rexes out of 10 would you give Jurassic World Rebirth? Let's go with that.
yeah, so I probably would do like. So I said it was. I think on Letterboxd it like 2.5 out of 5 because I thought it was average. So I'd give it like a 7, like a C, like a passing grade, like a 7 out of 10, which is, average. It's like, okay, hey, that's an average passing grade. I wouldn't have given it like a rotten grade because, like, I'm thinking of like, okay, letter grades. 70s are usually a C. So it's like, yeah, I'd give it like a C. C,
Yeah.
maybe C plus because, like I said, I think you have to set your expectations of just, again, it's not going to be the first. And I'm not saying
Sure.
they shouldn't try to be the first Jurassic Park, but I just think you're never going to capture that
Oh,
magic
yeah.
of that first movie. So, but no,
Absolutely.
I thought it was just fine. Like your one comment came in. It was just
Yeah.
fine. It's,
Absolutely. Yeah, I would give it a 6.5 out of 10. I think it was competently made. And like Spencer says, some movies are about the fun journey, and this was definitely a fun journey, although it has some faults and some eye roll moments. I think for the most part, it was definitely a fun summer, a great way to kick off the summer. Go see it with your kids, go see it with your significant other, and just have fun.
Oh, for sure, man. No,
Yeah.
I'm with you on that. I think this, like I said, this month's gonna be crazy. So it's like I think it's a nice way to start the month. And now it's just gonna be I'm just curious what the legs of this movie will be, and
Sure.
if it'll keep going or is it gonna get swallowed up by 2 huge tentpole superhero movies.
Yeah. And again, I encourage everyone that is listening to take advantage of ticket sales if they have them. Go check out all the movies this summer because they do look like fun things to kind of experience with friends. So absolutely. We got together a couple of weeks ago to record an episode of the Scare Scuttlebutt podcast, and I'm dropping that next week.
Oh,
And
nice.
we got together, and obviously we like science fiction, and we explored a little bit of real science in our fiction, and that was a wonderful conversation I had with you. Can't wait to share that one.
That was a fun one.
Yeah, we talked about the science in The Martian and some other things.
That Project Hail Mary movie looks awesome.
Interesting.
Very
Yeah,
excited for that.
yeah, absolutely. So if you're listening to this, please watch out for that. I will drop this show in our podcast feed. So if folks are not into the whole YouTube thing, you can listen to it while you're running your errands. NickFlix Podcast. Check out Nick's podcast. Why don't you tell folks where people can find you to say hello there?
Yeah, come check me out on Spotify and Apple, and then Twitter, Blue Sky, any of the social media is just NickFlix Pod. But yeah, come follow, and if you want to chat about movies, it's what I do, man. Just a big old movie nerd.
Absolutely. It's always fun talking movies with you. I want to thank the chat, Dingus, Den, Spencer. We had Andrew show up for a little bit and say hello, Nick from Backyard TARDIS. Thank you so much for joining us, and everybody else who lurked in the background, Jedi of Chicago. Thank you for coming in and offering your 2 cents on this film, and we'll see you out there on the Twitterverse. Make sure I don't miss anybody. Yeah, we had apparently we had some lurkers. Thank you very much for showing up. And from time to time we do some reviews. We do talk a little bit about this and that with some guests. Please, if you watch this show tonight, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and make sure that you are following our guests, NickFlix Podcast, and all the other folks that we have on the show, and collaborate and interact with them, because that's why we're here. We don't like talking to ourselves. We like to at least have some conversation going about what we love and what we don't, and we'll tell you why. So Nick, have a fantastic Tuesday. I will text you Tuesday night and let you know about Superman. I'll give you my 1 or 2 word review. I won't spoil it for you.
It better not be Snickers. There better not be another.
Be any
Snickers. You told me, you go, I'm curious what you're going to think. There's something to do with Snickers. I'm like, okay.
Okay, excellent. And if you have any thoughts on anything we said tonight, head on over to the email. Shoot us an email at scareofscuttlebutt@gmail.com, or send us a voicemail. We love listening to your voice to see what you guys have to say. That's 773-234-8659. It's past Nick's bedtime.
Yeah.
So
I'm a dad of 2, man.
Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us on this edition of the Scare of Scuttlebutt Podcast, live edition on YouTube. Nick, thank you so much. We'll talk to you guys later.
All right.